Chapter 3, Analysis Phase. And let's determine the system's requirement. Okay, there are several ways to determine the system's requirement, and the easiest way to get the requirement from the customer. And here, as a start, we can consider the performing requirement determination. Okay, so technically, we want to collect information on what the system should do for many sources. So you can consider users, report forms, procedures, and characteristics for gathering requirement. So impertinence, you can question everything, and impartiality. So find the best organizational solution, and there's a properties. Okay, so first property is impertinence, and technically the flexibility, okay, to associate the multiple questions, and impartiality, also relaxation of the constraint, and this is a flexibility, right? In terms of use, and attention to detail, reframe, okay, reframing. So view organization in new ways, okay, and then types of deliverables are like this. So information collected from users, existing documents and files, computer-based information, understanding of organizational components. So business object, information need, rules of data processing, key event. Okay. So there are multiple deliverables for requirements determination. So let's look at the types of deliverables using this table. So here, and first one, information collected from the conversation with users. So by communicating with users, you can actually get some information, right? So in order to do that, you can interview users, right? So interview transcript, questionnaire responses, okay, by conducting a survey, right? Notes for the observation and meeting notes, right? So you can have a meeting with users, right? Existing documents and files like this. So business mission and strategy statement, sample business forms and report, and computer displays, also procedure manuals, job descriptions, training manuals, and flow charts, and documentation of existing systems, consultant report, right? And computer-based information include 3 items. So results from joint application design sessions. So we will mention about JED, okay, session in the following slide, and case repository contents and reports of the existing system, and display and reports from the system prototypes. Got it? Okay, so traditional method for determining requirements. So we can actually consider these 4 items: interview with individuals, questionnaires, observation of workers, business document. So, okay, so interview, I think is the easiest way to actually understand the requirement of the customers, right, or users. So interview individuals informs about the operation and issues of the current system and needs for the systems in the future organization activities. So you can actually get some information from right, by asking the question to the potential users or existing users, right? And what about questionnaires? So you can conduct a survey, right? Survey people via questionnaires to discover issues and requirements, right? So you can actually contact the existing workers or potential users, right? And they distribute your questionnaires to them, so that after that they will give you some comments, right, to you. So for example, actually every semester when you complete your courses, and then university also distribute the questionnaires, right, to you, so that you can answer it, right? Also you have a chance to evaluate the class as well, right, by using questionnaires. Okay, and third one, observation of workers. Observe workers at selected times to see how data are handled and what information people need to be do their job. So basically, instead of contacting the users directly, you can actually observe the work Okay, observe the tasks of the workers. So usually consultant, okay, operations consultant or the systems engineers usually do this kind of take this kind of approach, right? Just observe the system and to see what's going on, and observe people and to see what's going on over there, right? And last one, business document. So study business document because every business has a document, right? So you can investigate the business document to discover report issues, policies, rules, and directions, as well as concrete examples of the use of data and information in organization. Okay, so interviewing and listening. So it is traditional, but it's a very widely used. So you should know how to interview the customer. So let me just briefly give you an idea about the interview. So gather fact, opinion, speculations, observe body language and emotions, guideline, include plan, be natural, listen, and seek a diverse view. So technically, you can also utilize a checklist or you also make an appointment for the interviewee, okay? And hardest thing is to listen to the users, actually interviewees, the opinion, right? Especially for me, usually I'm so talkative, so usually while I'm listening to the other's opinion and then suddenly I mention something. So I'm not a good listener, but you can be. Okay, so anyway, this is a guideline for the interview. And then also interview question include two types. One is open-ended, another one is closed-ended. Open-ended usually does not has a specified answers, okay? And closed-ended usually gives some options to the user so that the interviewees can choose one of the options, okay? Or specified responses. Choose one option from the set of the specified responses. So that you so actually there are pros and cons. So especially when you do the preliminary study about the on the existing system or the existing system, and customers or users can give you any ideas about the system, right? However, if the system did not exist before, or is a totally new system, and users may not have an idea about the system, right? So it may give you the really long information or long opinion to you. So in the case, yeah, you can utilize a closed-ended questionnaire so that users can actually answer the question within the certain range, right? Select one of the option from the specified responses, right? All right, and guidelines for effective interviewing. So definitely you need to plan the interview, and I already mentioned these 5 items before, right? So you should plan the interview so that you interviewee also can have a time to think about the answers in advance, right? Also be natural so that interviewees can answer the question naturally and listen and take the note. Definitely you need to take the note or take a video as well, or record the video and review your note within 48 hours of the meeting, because after 48 hours and then you will forget forget about everything. So that's why seek diverse interview a wide range of people, including potential users and managers. Yeah, so if you have a chance, and then please contact different type of people, okay, so that you can get many opinions or diverse opinions. Here is the interview outline form. So you can utilize this form, and if you utilize this form in Korean, and definitely you can change the English in Korean, right? So anyway, format is still same. And if you look at it, interviewee's name, and here interviewer, so your name will go here, and then location, medium, and the appointment date, and also objectives of the meeting interview, and reminders as well, and agenda, which is a plan, right? And then approximate time, right, is here for each question, and then general observations, right? You can make a note here, and then unsolved issues, topic not covered, so you can also make a note here. interviewee can write down can utilize this form so to answer the question. So question 1, question 2, right? And here's the question 1, and here's the answer, right? And then after that you can make a note here like this. Okay, so this is another form to interview the user, potential user. All right, so how to administer the questionnaires? So here's a way. So more cost effective than interviews. So questionnaire, we are conducting a survey instead of taking the interview, because if you decide to interview interviewees, and definitely it takes time. It usually takes 10 or 30 minutes for each interview, right? And also maybe you need to move to some location as well. Then you should consider the transportation time as well. So it's kind of hard to interview so many people. Instead of taking the interviewing, taking interview, and then definitely you can actually distribute the questionnaires to many people. Nowadays, online material is also available, so you can utilize it as well. So more cost effective than interview, of course, is the cheap method. And then choosing a respondent should be representative for all users, and type of sample are like this: convenient, random sample, purposeful sample, and then stratified sample. So this is a associated sampling method, and you can just remember this one, random sample. So when you have a subject list of all users, you can randomly choose some of the authors. And how can you choose randomly choose users? And definitely, let me just show you the example. So if you can utilize Excel to choose a random sample. Let me open the Excel file. Okay, so it takes time. Random sample. Actually, when you take the statistics course or the design of experiment course, and then you will learn about random sampling method. So that's why you should take a DOE class actually for your future. But let me just briefly explain how you can use take the random sampling. So here, so let's say subject 1 is here. So this is the name of the subject of the respondent. Subject 2, subject 3, and so on. Let's say we have 10 people over here. What, 15? Let's say 15. And then you need to generate a random number using a random function. Okay, let's say we want to select a 5 people from this list, 15 list, okay, randomly. And then now you generate the random numbers, right? And then this is a random number. Oops. Okay, this is a random number. And then you can just sort the data. Okay, data, go to data, click sort, and here the sort by random number. Click OK, smallest largest. So now it's randomly sorted, right? Based on these numbers, actually it is sorted. So you can just choose the first 5 people, right? Because it is already randomly sorted, so you choose the 5 people. Got it? Do not choose the people like based on your judgment. So let's say that here's your subject 1, here's your subject 2, and so on. So we still have 15 potential users, and then do not choose the certain person by yourself. Okay, if let's say I choose the 3, and then I choose 11, I choose the 7, I choose 9, or I choose okay 14. In this case, it's not random sample. Okay, this is because our intention is already actually, or our perception already affect the selection. So that's why this is not the random sampling. This is what you call convenient. Okay, convenient sample. Okay, so just delete it. So do not use this one. So please generate random numbers and then sort the sub or the list or the potential people, okay, based on these random numbers. Okay, good. So anyway, this is a good example of the random sampling. And here, okay, and then next, design, question design, most closely ended question, yeah, definitely. Better to give the options and can be administered over the phone, in person, over the internet or company intranet. You know the difference between internet and intranet, right? So intranet is what? External people cannot access the network, right? That's what you call the intranet. And then external people can access your web page. That means internet, right? Internet, if you use internet, and then everything can be accessed, right? However, intranet is really blocked by the company, so you cannot actually enter the certain network within the company, right? So that's a difference between intranet and the internet. So anyway, all right, go back to the questionnaires versus difference between the questionnaires and the interviews. So what's the difference? So here is the summary table here. So information richness, interview is better, time required, low, this is better, expense, this is better, right? In chance for the following proving, this one is better because the questionnaire, if you distribute the questionnaires, usually the users doesn't want to provide additional like answer to you later, right? After 10 days or 5 days and so on. But if you interview someone, you know the contact, right? So you met him or her in person before, so technically they will give you the additional comments to you. Confidentiality, in that case also you need to pay them, right? Confidentiality is interview is known to interviewer and respondent can be unknown, so it's a kind of random, right? And then involvement of the subject, interviewee is involved and committed, respondents is passive, right? Passive, no clear commitment. Potential audience, so limited numbers but complete responses from those interviews can be quite large, but quality is not good, right? Lack of the response from the some can be biased result, right? Because think about the course evaluation. You just choose the good, save your time, right? Sometimes to save your time, just choose the same answer for all questions without reading the questions, right? Sometimes. So that's why questionnaire, sometimes questionnaire is good, but also you may want to consider the interview instead of taking the questionnaires, conducting the survey. All right, directly observing users serves as a good method to supplement interviews, often difficult to obtain the unbiased data because it is influenced by whom? Influenced by your judgment and your perception process, right? Also, people often work differently when being observed. Yes. So that's true, right? If you observe someone or if you record someone, their act is unusual, right? And types of the information to be discovered, problems with existing system, opportunity to meet new need, organizational direction, and names of key individuals, values of organization, special information processing circumstance, and then rules for processing data. And detailed information is also here as well. So difference between the observation and document analysis. So I mean, it's pretty clear. So that's why you don't need to think too much about it. So observation, information reaching is high, and then document low, and time required can be extensive, right? You need to record someone. And then document, yes, you can just spend a minute, right, to review the document. Expense can be high. This one is cheap, and definitely since you need the time, you need to spend some time and effort here, so the result will be good. But this one should be limited. Confidentiality observee is known to interviewer, and however, this one is what depends on the nature of document, right? So it's really different. can vary anyway. Involvement of subject. Interviewees may or may not be involved in the committee depending on the whether they know they are being observed, right? So, and then this one is none, right? Just you are dealing with the document, bunch of documents here. And potential audience, limited numbers of limited time and limited time of each, and then potential bias, potentially biased by which document were kept or because document not created for this purpose. So the result can be, you need to think something right behind the document. So that's why you can have this kind of problem here. Joint application design, JAD, brings together key users, managers, and system analysis. Purpose of JAD is to collect the system requirements simultaneously from key people. So, and it is conducted offsite, so it's a face-to-face, okay? And prototyping, repetitive process, rudimentary version of the system is built and replaces or argument of SDLC, yeah. And then goal of the prototyping is to develop concrete specification for ultimate system. And personally, I really like to take a prototyping because by using prototyping, you can provide the additional information to the user, especially when you develop a new system which didn't exist before. And then definitely it's better to provide some materials or some program, right, to the users so that users can have an idea about it, idea about the development or outcomes or output and so on. So that's why. Then let's talk about the JAD in detail. So participant in JAD can be session leader, users, managers, sponsor, systems analyst, scribe, IS information system steps, and so on. Okay, you can invite other people as well. And resulting in JAD will be the documentation detailing existing system, features of the proposed system, right? So it's more like you will have a big meeting, right, including many people like this, and to get their opinions, so to specify the features of the proposed system. Okay, so this is a layout for the JAD session. So you have a screen here, a whiteboard, and then flip chart sheet as well. So people can, and then here are multiple chairs, also a table, and computers, and so on. Definitely we need a projector and printers and so on. So this is more like a brainstorming, a meeting for the brainstorming. You can communicate with other people and then share your opinions with others so that people can think about the potential problems and then benefits or advantages or the disadvantages of the proposed system and so on. So once you have all the items, and then definitely you can write down all the items over this whiteboard as well. If you have any information about the project and your project, and then definitely you can use this screen as well with projector. So JAD can have this kind of the advantage in terms of the 6 categories shown here. The type of information. So JAD will be our interview. We'll provide a bunch of information as is system, improvement, and to be system. And then depth of information, high, because you are communicating with experts, right, in the meeting. Also, you can meet by interview, you can also meet the expert, right? And breadth of the information. This one is low because you need to meet someone, right? One person, right? And then interview another person and so on. But this one is more like having a meeting, right? You have a meeting and including multiple peoples, right? So they can communicate each other and then maybe think of the new potential problems, right? Integration of information also will be high because there are a lot of communication between the people in this meeting, right? JAD, right? And then user involvement, this is a high, right? And then cost and this one is a medium, and this is a low medium. So why, you may wonder why this JET is cheaper than interview. Again, if you want to interview someone, you need to meet someone, right? One person, one by one, right? Meet person one by one. So you need to spend some money. Transportation costs will be extremely high. But JET, you will just reserve the room and then invite multiple people at the same room, right? So that's why, in terms of cost, this one will be cheaper. However, questionnaire, you just distribute the questions to random people, lot of people, right? Without spending your transportation costs, right? That's why the cost should be really low. And if cost is low, and definitely information level quality will be low as well. Right? And document analysis, easiest way, right? This is the easiest way, or observation also easy. So that's why there are a lot of disadvantages, right? Okay, so prototyping. Let's talk more about the prototyping. Yes, and definitely the speed is a matter in prototyping because you need to quickly convert the requirement to the working version of the system. And once users see requirement convert to the system, we'll ask for modification or will generate additional request. So most useful when, so prototyping will be useful when users' requests are not clear. I already mentioned it, right? If you are developing an existing system, and definitely you need to give some idea to the user, right? So prototyping will be the one of the best way to provide the idea to the customer. And few users are involved in the system. Designs are complex and require concrete form. History of the communication problems between analysts and users, because they don't have idea about the potential or develop the system, propose a system. That's why you need to show something to people. And tools are readily available to build the prototype. And drawbacks: tendency to avoid formal documentation, difficult to adapt to more general user audience, and sharing the data with other systems is often not considered, and software development lifecycle checks are often bypassed. So problem is that, prototyping is focusing on the develop some kind of easy program or the working version of the system. So the development will be the most important, right, in this case. So documentation, usually the engineers or the system developer will forget about the documentation because speed was a matter. So that's why you should also document your all the process as a good engineer. So maybe it needs additional people actually to make a document for the engineer or for the engineer who makes a prototype. Good. So next one, business process re-engineering, also known as BPR. So BPR searches for an implementation of radical change in business process to achieve breakthrough improvement in product and service. So this one is one of the innovation ways, okay, for the business. Goals of the BPR is to recognize complete flow of the data in major sections of the organization, eliminate the waste or unnecessary steps, so make the simple step actually for the company, which will result in save the money, right, or operational time. And combined steps become more responsive to future change, right? More so if all the process becomes simple, and definitely it will have a flexibility, right? You know that small group has a small group usually is flexible than a big group, right? So so the BPR actually will make the company more simple and make the existing complex system simple. Also, identification of the processes to re-engineer. So key business processes is a set of the activities designed to process, produce specific output for a particular customer or market. Focused on customers and outcome. And same techniques are used as were used for requirement determination Okay, and identify specific activities that can be improved through BPR. I already mentioned that, right? Disruptive technologies that enable the breaking of long-held business rules that inhibit organizations from making radical business changes. Okay, so some technologies are not necessary to to be in the system, so or organization. So in BPR you need to remove, or you need to try to avoid or eliminate the unnecessary technologies, unnecessary processes, and so on, for the changing future. Okay, and eliminated organizational rules by technologies. So technology technically eliminates so many organizational rules. So let's look at the rule. Information can appear in only one place at a time, and distributed database allow the sharing the information, right? So nowadays many departments see the access the data, right, at the same time, and see the get the information at the same time, right? Only expert can perform the complex work. Expert system can aid a non-expert, right? Nowadays people, even people can do the really complex job without having like a deep knowledge about it, right? Because there is a expert system. And business must choose between centralized decentralization. Advanced technologies network can support dynamic organizational structure, right? So both. And managers support both, right? Managers must make all decisions. Business support tool can aid non-managers, right? And then field personnel need offices where they can receive, store, retrieve, and transmit information. Wireless data communication and portable computer provide a virtual office for workers. So nowadays, even we are working at home, right? You are taking the course at home, right? Using the web meeting tool, right? Just like WebEx. And the best contact with the potential buyer is personal contact. Interact communication technologies allow complex messaging capabilities. You have to find out where things are. Automatic identification and tracking technology know where things are. Fitbit, right? You can use a Fitbit, Apple Watch, and so on, or the mobile phone, right? And plans get revised periodically, and high performance computing can provide real-time updating, right? So supercomputer, right? Or high-speed internet, right? Okay, so problem analysis. So most straightforward requirement analysis strategy, and it means asking the users and managers to identify problems with the as-is system and just describe how to solve them in 2B system. So in this case, yes, we assume that the users or potential customer knows everything about it. Okay, so asking the characteristic of the as-is system as well as 2B system. Okay, and most users have a very good idea of the changes they would like to see, and most will be quite vocal about the suggesting them. So that's why I mean you need to really meet the existing employee and then try to get the comments from the existing employee, because they know the problems. Usually they know the problem, but they didn't report to the supervisor. So if you become consultant or the system engineers and try to contact them and see what kind of potential problem they have, because you're developing the system to to solve the existing problem, right? Also, you can do the root cause analysis. So this is a root cause analysis. Also, the similar one is a fishbone diagram. So focusing on the problem first rather than solution. So this is try to identify the problems and causes and list problems with the current system. So just list all the problems you have here, or the system has here, and then prioritize the problems in order of the importance, and prioritize the problems and the list of root causes for the most important problem. So, okay, so from here, significance will be higher for the top item. Significance will increase, okay, increases as the level becomes higher, okay. And duration analysis. And duration analysis requires a detailed examination of the amount of time it takes to perform each process in the current as-is system. So as-is system means is the current system, okay? Determines the total amount of time it takes on average to perform a set of business processes for typical input. Time each of individual steps in the business process. Third, the time to complete the basic steps are then totaled and compared with the total for overall process, and identifies a significant difference between two, and then remove the bottleneck process. So technically we want to remove the bottleneck process. So bottleneck process is a process causing the delay or wait. So by removing that delay, you can increase the speed of the operation or speed of the entire system. So that's why we will eventually have to enhance performance of the system. And activity-based costing. So technically in this approach, we want to examine the cost of each major process or step in a business process rather than a time taken. So it's focusing on the cost, okay? Identify the most costly processes and focuses their improved effort on them. So in terms of cost, because cost is matter, right? Money is matter for the business. So that's why in this case, we are considering the cost instead of time. And informal benchmarking. Major analysts think about other organizations or visit them as customers to watch how the business process is performed. Benchmarking. Learn about other organization processes. So technically, Korean company, big company usually really, or the other industry as well, try to really take this approach because they, instead of develop the new one and then try to mimic the existing process of the good company. That's what you call benchmark, right? Kind of, yes. Outcome analysis focuses on the understanding the fundamental outcomes that provide the value to customers, and technology analysis starts by having the analyst managers develop a list of important and interesting technologies. So identify technology. Usually when you learn about technology management, and then initially they really list the technology or the technology associated with a certain patent, right? So and then see how a certain kind of technology important, right? Significance of the technology, right? Then group the systematically identify how each and every technology could be applied to the business process and identify how the business would benefit. See? So this one is more like a technology oriented and this one is outcome oriented. Last one, use case, which depict a set of activities performed to produce some output result. Each use case describes how the external users triggers an event to which the system must respond. So in other words, it is event driven. For example, in a video store system, a customer might rent a DVD or return the DVD, or DVD might become overdue. But nowadays there is no store, right? DVD rental store. The act of renting or returning DVDs and the passage of time are all events triggering of the setup or triggering a set of activity the system must perform. So you can analyze each action in this case from the customer's perspective. Element of use case. So basic information: name, number, description, priority, and actor. So name should be as simple yet descriptive as possible. Number, simply sequential number that serves to reference each use case. Description, briefly convey the use case purpose. And priority may be assigned to indicate the real relative significance of the use case in the overall system. And actor refers to a person, another software system, or a hardware device that interacts with the system to achieve a useful goal. Okay, useful goal. And last one, trigger, the event that causes the use case to begin. So that's a trigger, okay? And there are two types. External triggers, temporal triggers. External trigger is the customer placing an order or the fire alarm ringing, and temporal trigger is DVD becoming overdue at the video store or the time to pay the rent. So it's more like a triggered by. Yes, so time, right? This is the temporal means time. So yeah. And precondition define the state the system must be in before the use case commence. And normal course is like this: description of the major steps that are performed to execute the response to the event, and the input used for the steps, and the output produced by the steps. And normal course lists the steps that are performed when everything flows smoothly in the system. So it's a very lengthy explanation, but you don't have to worry too much about it, because we will have an example problem here. So we will actually you will develop the use case, conduct the use case analysis. And alternative course. So this one is normal situation, and then there is alternative, right? If there is as is, always there is to be, right? So alternative course. Alternative courses are included to depict balances and branches in logics that also will lead to successful conclusion of the use case, right? Successful conclusion. And post conditions. Use case may be performed, right? After the implementation, okay? You can see the results, right? That's a post condition. So performed in series of in order to accomplish the overall user goal. Also serve to define the preconditions for next use case in the series. And we have three more terminologies. Exceptions. Use case should describe any errors conditions, exceptions that may occur as the use case steps are performed. And summary input and output. The final section of the use case summarizes the set of the major inputs and outputs to the steps of the use case. And additional use case issues here. For example, frequency of use, business rules, special requirements, assumptions, and notes and issues. And here's the format of the use case analysis. So use case name is here, and I already mentioned all the terminologies, right, in previous slides. So here we cast a chemical, and the ID is here, priority is high, medium, low, and actor is a known chemical applicator, so LCA. This is the type of job actually. And then description. So LCA specify the known chemical needed for the job by entering the name, its name, and ID numbers. So this is the actions, right? And then the system satisfy the request by reserving the quantity requested or the quantity available, and not notifying the chemical supply warehouse of the pickup. So it's more like ordering system, right? And long LCA needs a chemical for the job. Type, external, temporal. The type is external, right? And precondition, you can address preconditions. Normal course, post conditions, exceptions, right? So if you need, also you can add other components, right? As well, alternative course and something like that. And use case and the functional requirement. Yes, let's talk about this. Use case only convey the user's point of view, so that's why you need to address the functional requirement, right, in order to develop the system. So behind the scene of processing details are probably not including the use case, so you need to think about the functions needed to meet the requirement, right? For example, the system shall allow the LCA who logged in this chemical request system to request one or more chemicals. So this is a function, but you need to think about it. So you need to think of what kind of function really or requirement is needed, right? Function requirement is needed to implement this kind of action, to allow the users to conduct that kind of action, perform that kind of action. And user cases testing. Testing personnel can readily identify the elements of the test they will want to perform when the system enters testing, and building use case. Use case can be used for the both as-is and to-be systems. As-is, to-be. Okay, as-is use cases focus on the current system. I told you, right? As-is equals to current system. And whereas to-be use case focus on the desired new system. And to-be use cases identify additional requirements from the use cases that were not completely specified in the requirement definition. There's a typo. So building use cases. So you can consider the multiple items addressed in previous slide, right? So identify the use case. So here is activity, and the typical question asks. So start the use case report form for each use case by filling in the name, description, and trigger. If there are more than 9 use cases, group them into the package, right? And then ask who, what, when, and where about the use case. What are the major tasks that are performed? What triggers this task? What tells you to perform this task? So technically, content use case, actually use case analysis takes so long time, yes. But anyway, we will have an hour to complete the example, right? Today. And identify the major steps within each use case, yes. So fill in the major steps needed to complete the task. Ask how about each use case, what information, forms, report do you need to perform this task, who gives you this information, forms, report, and so on. So many questions here. And third one, ask how about each step, okay, for the third step. And how does the person know when to perform this step? What form report data does the step produce, and so on, okay? You can, by asking so many questions like shown here, and then you can actually answer the complete each step. All right, so here's a sample event response list. And let's say we have 6 events over here, and their responses are here. So new vehicles are needed for inventory. So okay, it seems like we have inventory having vehicles. A purchase order is placed with the vehicle manufacturer. Yeah, definitely we need the vehicle. So purchase order is placed, right? In other words, with the vehicle manufacturer, so to buy a car, right? New vehicles arrive from the manufacturer. Vehicle information is recorded on the new vehicle record. Definitely, inventory should be updated, right? Customer make an offer on a new vehicle. Detailed offer are recorded, should be, and then presented to owner for the acceptance decision. And customer offers is accepted. Details of accepted offer are recorded on the sale contact, and customer provide the deposit. Okay, so that customer can make a contract, right, with dealer. And customer takes delivery on a new vehicle. Customer pays for the vehicle once offer is accepted. Full payment, right? Takes possession of the vehicle and turns in trade-in. Details of entire purchase are saved, so it's already sold. You can sell the vehicle. And trade-in is added to the used vehicle inventory. Used vehicle. So trade-in is another option to buy a car. So usually when you buy a car, you need to pay money, right? You need to pay money in full price, right? However, if you have a car already, if you have a used car, that's a used car, right? If you have a car already, you can sell the car, okay, to the dealer, and then pay the rest of the money you have to buy a new car. Okay, that's what you call trading. Okay, so in this case, used vehicle, see, used vehicle information is recorded on the used vehicle form. All right, so here is an example of the use case, a record on offer. Okay, we have examples, so use case name, ID, priority, and then actor, description, trigger, type, preconditions, and normal course, right? So you can see the detail actually, course here, detailed actions, right, to sell the car, and then post conditions like this. Okay, so this is not end of today. This is the end of the explanation about the determination of system requirement, and then next time we will do the user case analysis, okay, with the example.